You don't even feel safe in your own body because you keep choosing other people over yourself. Being in a relationship does not give you permission to abandon yourself. Having children does not give you permission to abandon yourself. Hi guys, I'm Nija. Welcome back to my channel. I help awakened women create their dream life using manifestation techniques. Today we're going to talk about something I think is very important. And the topic of discussion is do not abandon yourself. We are still working on cultivating a deeper sense of self-love and self-appreciation. But I noticed that something that women do that sabotages themselves, sabotages their ability to love themselves and feel like they trust themselves, is abandoning themselves. This is a form of self-betrayal. And that's exactly what I wrote. Self-abandonment is a form of self-betrayal. Choosing people over yourself is an act of self-betrayal. And this is typically how abandoning yourself manifests. It manifests in putting other people and other people's needs and other people's expectations of ourselves above ourselves. A lot of women, they can't even trust their intuition because you keep abandoning yourself. You know, like when you don't know what to do, it's because you can't cultivate a deep sense of self-trust because you keep abandoning yourself. You know how like when people are like, to know what to do next, just follow your intuition, follow your intuition. Women who abandon themselves have a very weak sense of intuition. They can't trust themselves because they keep abandoning themselves. Therefore, they're always anxious. People who deal with anxiety, and this is not always the case, but if you find yourself to be constantly feeling anxious, you need to ask yourself, are you constantly abandoning yourself? Are you constantly betraying what you want, what you need, what you desire? If you cannot hear your intuition speak to you, it is probably because you have a habit of abandoning yourself for other people. And that is why you feel like you can't trust yourself. Some people, and this is another thing that happens with anxiety, you don't even feel safe in your own body. Can you imagine? People with anxiety, you know what I'm talking about. You don't even feel safe in your own body because you keep choosing other people over yourself. This is giving like major inner child trauma. When you were an inner child, you felt like you had to be a people pleaser so that you wouldn't get abandoned. When you were a child, you felt like you had to always do what somebody said so that you don't get hurt or so that you can get your needs met. It happens all the time. But when you do that, when you're like, oh, I'm just gonna, I don't know why I'm getting this download, and I pray I do not trigger anybody by saying this. But like an example I'm hearing in my head. It's like when you were a child and your mom was always like, you need to be sweet when someone's talking to you. This is your aunt, you need to hug them. This is your uncle, you need to hug them. Or that's your uncle, go sit on his lap. Or, you know, like just things like that. When you intuitively are like, I don't want to do that. I don't feel safe doing that. And like you remember your guardian or whoever was your parents saying, you need to do this or you're going to be in trouble. Do you remember like sitting at the dinner table and your parents are like, you need to keep eating or you're going to sit here and stare at that plate? When you feel your stomach is just like so full, like to the point where your stomach hurts. And your body's like, I'm done eating. I don't want anything else. And your parents like, you're not going to get up from this chair until you finish your plate. Or, I don't care if you don't want to go to your grandparents' house. You're going to your grandparents' house. Or, I don't care if you don't want to go to your uncle's house. You're going to your uncle's house. And they didn't know what was happening to you when you went to these places. It's like as a child, our intuition is so heightened. Like, I'm not saying that we always know what's best for ourselves as children, but we are consciously aware. And sometimes your parentals are your biggest sabotagers. And so now you grow up and you're a people pleaser. You don't want to make people upset. You don't want to make people mad at you because you remember, oh, when mom and dad were mad at me, I went to bed hungry. When mom and dad were mad at me, I would get my butt beat. when mom and dad were mad at me, whatever. And so this is the trauma of our childlike selves, and then we grow up being trained to abandon ourselves, being trained to put other people ahead of ourselves because we're afraid that if we don't, we're gonna get hurt, we're gonna be abandoned, we're gonna get in trouble, someone's gonna yell at us. And so it's so important, and I'm sorry, we just went on, it was a tangent, but it wasn't a tangent because I just like had this down that like this is where the abandonment starts. This is where the self-abandonment starts. And when we're children, we can't really stand up for ourselves, or we'll get in trouble. We can't really speak up for ourselves, or you know, we'll hear that we're talking back and that you're just a child, you need to be obedient. This is where the self-abandonment and the self-betrayal starts. And then you grow up into adulthood and you're afraid to tell people what you want and what you need, and you're afraid to put yourself first because you don't know if you're gonna get in trouble. This is how the self-abandonment starts. So you have to make yourself feel safe in your body, and you do this by honoring what you want. You do this by stop abandoning yourself. You do this by listening to your intuition and acting upon what the intuition says. This is how you honor yourself. This is how you stop abandoning yourself. You stop betraying yourself, okay? So being in relationships does not give you permission to abandon yourself. There are a lot of women who stop the self-care, stop the self-love when they get in a relationship. They make their entire life, their entire personality about the other person. Being in a relationship does not give you permission to abandon yourself. If you have children, parents, having children does not give you permission to abandon yourself. I get it. You have to take care of your babies. You got to make sure they have what they need. You have to be there for them, love them. You can do all those things. But when you stop taking care of yourself, when you stop the self-care, when you stop the self-love, guess what? You are harming those children. Because they're looking at mom works until she's exhausted, mom burns herself out, and they're learning from you. They're like, oh, self-care is not important, my mom didn't take care of herself, so I don't need to take care of myself. They're learning from you. Mom doesn't sleep, she doesn't get any sleep, so I don't need to get any sleep. Mom has poor self-esteem, so I can have poor self-esteem because this is who I'm mirroring. This is who I'm learning from. You cannot abandon yourself just because you have children. Having children does not give you permission to abandon yourself. In fact, you need to love yourself even harder when you have children, because guess what? The next generation is looking at you. If you don't get it together, they don't get it together. If you don't love yourself, they won't love themselves. If you keep choosing shitty relationships and partnerships, they will start choosing shitty relationships and partnerships. Mothers, hear me. Fathers, hear me. Having children does not give you permission to abandon yourself. You still need to put yourself on a pedestal. You still need to pour into yourself, give yourself time to rest, take care of yourself, self-care, lotion your body, meditate, hydrate, whatever you need to do, whatever the self says is required. Because if you do not, your children are watching you. If you have low self-esteem, bad confidence, because you're not pouring into yourself, guess what? You are raising children who will have low self-esteem, bad confidence. If you are in an abusive relationship, mothers, hear me, and you're like, oh, I'm just sticking it out for the kids. I'm just staying in this for the kids. They're watching you, and they are more likely to end up in abusive relationships because you set the standard of what you said was okay for you. Having children does not give you permission to abandon yourself. Having sick parents, if you're a caretaker, a caregiver, having sick family members, that does not give you permission to abandon yourself. You're like, oh, I have to wake up at 5 a.m. and give them a sponge bath. Oh, I can't eat what I need to eat because I need to take care of, who's going to take care of them if I don't take care of them? Who's going to be there if I don't? You better be there for yourself first and be there for them second. This does not mean that you neglect your responsibilities, but this means that you cannot help people until you help yourself. You cannot be of service to people until you're of service to yourself. You can't pour into their cup if you have an empty cup. You know what you're pouring into their cup? Air. You have nothing to pour into them because you have nothing to pour into yourself. Pour into yourself first, and then you can pour into other people with your overflow. This is how it's supposed to be. So having like the responsibility of being a caregiver does not give you permission to abandon yourself. Can we be real? This is real life scenarios, okay? It's not airy fairy and pixie dust. This is very real. All right, so you guys might be asking yourself now, how do I stop abandoning myself? Here's some things that I came up with. Acknowledge your feelings. This is something that, as like when you were a child, sometimes you were like, it doesn't matter how you feel, you still have to do it. It doesn't matter how you feel, you still have to do it. As an adult, if you want to pour that love back into yourself, if you want to stop betraying yourself, you must acknowledge how you feel. Your feelings are your sacred human technology. We don't have feelings by accident. This is why they call us humans. Hue meaning a wide variety. We experience a wide variety of emotions, and it is all information. Your feelings are information. So when you don't feel good, that's information. So if you want to stop abandoning yourself, you must acknowledge your feelings. How do you feel about showing up at that job? How do you feel about being in this relationship? How do you feel when you look in the mirror? This is all information. Okay? The next thing is to meet your needs. A lot of us are, giving up, betraying ourselves because we do not meet our needs. We expect other people to meet our needs for us, and that is not how it's going to work. Meeting your needs meaning that food, clothing, shelter, money. You must meet your needs. This is how you feel more secure and grounded, okay? This is major root chakra energy. If you can't meet your needs, you have a wounded root chakra, meaning you're blocked in your root chakra area. That means you don't feel secure. You don't feel safe because you haven't met your basic needs: food, clothing, shelter, money, being able to provide for yourself. Another way to stop abandoning yourself: stop choosing shitty partners. You're abandoning yourself when you end up in the wrong partnerships. Stop being a people pleaser. That is a form of self-betrayal. Saying, oh, if I just do this, then they're gonna like me. If I just do this, then they're gonna accept me. You are betraying yourself. Nurture your inner child. Go back for your inner child. Do the inner work. Heal yourself so that you can be a better version of yourself. Go after your goals. Those of you guys who choose to not have goals, choose to not set goals, just say, oh, I'm just gonna wing it, I'm just going with the flow, you are betraying yourself. Why? Because everybody has come to the planet Earth to fulfill a mission. Could be big mission, could be small mission. But you're here for a reason. But when you don't listen to your goals, when you don't listen to your desires, you betray yourself, you abandon the mission. And I was watching this YouTuber I like to watch. His name is Jaden. And he said something to me, and I was like, not to me, but like he said in his video. And I told him after because we had a phone call. And I was like, this was massive when you said that. And he said, disobedience leads to depression. Meaning that when you don't do the things that you were called to do, when you don't do the things and show up in the way that you were called to show up, you will be depressed. When you are not creating your dream life, when you are not showing up for the people who you're meant to show up and touch, disobedience leads to depression. Shout out to Jaden, because that was a bar. So the last thing I want to say, and then we're going to wrap on this video. You don't get a reward for self-sacrificing, okay? You don't get rewarded from God for throwing your life away. You don't get rewarded for self-sacrificing. Because everybody has the power and authority to create their own life. Okay? Everybody chose to come and incarnate on the earth plane exactly as who they chose to be for whatever lessons that they needed to learn, or for whatever reason. Stop acting like people are not intelligent enough to decide what is right for them or what is best for them. You focus on what is right for you and what is best for you. And remember that people respect you more when you set boundaries. They do. Okay? Think about like high-performing CEOs. Are they just letting anybody hop into their office and take an hour of their time to talk to them? No. They've got shit to do. They've got an empire to run. They've got lives to change. Okay? People take you more seriously when you have boundaries. They're like, oh wow, they really respect themselves. Oh wow, they really care about their mission. Oh wow. If you want people to respect you, set boundaries. They might act like they hate it, but in their mind, your value goes all the way up when you set boundaries. And that is all I want to say about how to stop abandoning yourself. I love you guys so much. I hope that this video was helpful. If you want to work with me, I have a private community called Dream Life Academy. This is a group of awakened women who are working on their manifestations to create their dream life. If you want to join, the link will be down below. We are about to start our self-obsession masterclass, and I want you guys to be a part of it, so don't miss it. It is going to be incredible. And until next time, I love you guys, and I'll see you in my next video.